All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're tackling one of the most eerie, unsolved mysteries of folklore. It's a universally recognized childhood dare that almost every single adult in the English-speaking world has attempted at some point, yet we've never quite explained it away. We are, of course, talking about Bloody Mary. This isn't just a spooky story. It's a phenomenon dripping with suspense, dread, and surprisingly deep psychological roots. I mean, think back for a second. You've probably been there, standing in the dark. You knew the rules. And you definitely remember that heart-pounding, suffocating dread of wondering if the glass was about to show you something absolutely terrifying. It's practically a rite of passage, and it relies so heavily on sensory details. The pitch-black room, the cold mirror, the sound of your own shaky whisper echoing off the bathroom tiles. The classic setup goes like this. You darken the room, light a single candle, and chant her name, usually exactly 13 times. And here is where it gets crazy. These near-identical invocation rules have been documented across North America, the UK, and Australia. Think about that. Kids separated by thousands of miles, long before the internet, independently passed down these exact same steps to prime each other for a haunting encounter. Which brings us to our first real piece of the puzzle, the ultimate childhood dare. It begs the question, right? Why on earth do kids purposefully scare the living daylights out of themselves? Well, archival folklore accounts, like this really great quote from Jamie Jensen back in 2000, reveal the true social function of this ritual. Kids use the dare as a genuine test of bravery and peer group allegiance. They're willingly subjecting themselves to intense suspense just to forge bonds through shared terror. It's like an adrenaline trust fall. Researchers Elizabeth Tucker and Brenda Dainett actually have a term for this. They call it Ilinx play. Ilinx is Greek for whirlpool, and it refers to games that create a thrilling dizziness or disorientation. By chanting, spinning in the dark, and staring into a flickering, shadowy mirror, adolescents are triggering this exact Ilinx effect. It gives them a safe, controlled, but incredibly dizzying jolt of shock. So the experience is real. But who exactly is Bloody Mary? Academics have spent decades trying to pin down her exact origins. People always guess historical figures, like the murderous Queen Mary Tudor in the 1550s, or the infamous Hungarian Countess Elizabeth Bathory, who died in 1614. But the actual academic trail? It starts with the figure appearing in Richard Dorson's 1959 folklore field recordings at the University of Indiana. That was later systematically cross-referenced in a pivotal 1978 study by folklorist Janet Langlois, who analyzed child informants sharing local myths about a car crash victim named Mary Wales. And here is the fascinating historical dead end. Despite decades of competing academic attribution attempts to find a single confirmed Queen Mary or historical figure as the source, no one perfectly matches the actual mirror spirit tradition. In fact, Langlois flagged in an unpublished appendix that this legend is structurally unlike any other mirror spirit tradition. There is no universally datable originating crime. There's no identifiable victim. The myth is just this massive amalgamation, a mashup of pseudo-historical queens, accused witches like Mary Worth, and local tragic figures. Let's look a little deeper in our next section, Reflections of Pubescent Anxiety. Because if Bloody Mary isn't a real historical ghost, then what are we actually looking at? Well, psychoanalytic folklorist Alan Duns famously argued that this ritual is actually a reflection of prepubescent anxiety. Think about it, the scratched face, the dripping blood, the monstrous distorted image. It perfectly captures the visceral body horror and the intense identity crisis of puberty. The myth shifts from a historical ghost story to the terrifying reality of our own physical development. And Duns points out that the setting is absolutely not an accident. The bathroom is a highly private, vulnerable space where adolescents are forced to confront their changing physical selves. By performing this ritual, they're turning a routine, everyday mirror into a canvas for their deepest insecurities. They're treating that reflective glass as a literal portal between the safety of their reality and the completely uncontrollable supernatural. The symbolism here is super dense. The obsession with blood serves as a way for youth to process their fear of losing bodily control. But honestly, the most fascinating part is the behavioral threshold. The child informants in Langlois' study, separated by thousands of miles, all independently described the same psychological trigger. She only appears if you genuinely believe she will. Okay, and this next part is actually wild. In 2001, researcher Gary Fine at the University of Wisconsin did a psychological study on this.
He found that the self-reported encounter rate among kids who followed the rules exactly was so statistically anomalous, meaning an incredibly high number of kids claimed they actually saw her, that the methodology section had to be completely rewritten for publication. To this day, the raw response data is held at the university's folklore archive and has never been fully released. How eerie is that?
Now let's expand our view. Section 4, a global evolving specter. Because this psychological phenomenon isn't just an isolated American or British thing. It easily crosses cultural borders. Folklorist Marina Badujev extensively documented a Russian urban legend known as the Queen of Spades. She is a mirror demon who shares near-identical invocation rules with Bloody Mary. You need darkness, you need candles, a mirror, and a chanted phrase. This striking parallel proves that we're looking at a deeply ingrained, universal human need for adolescents to safely test boundaries. It's super interesting to compare the two. While Bloody Mary borrows heavily from historical queens and local witches, the Queen of Spades evolved from an inanimate object, playing cards, mixed with demonic folklore. Yet, despite having entirely different cultural starting points, both figures serve the exact same terrifying function for young summoners separated by oceans. They both manifest in the mirror to enforce a fear test. Finally, let's talk about the modern era in digital screams and pop culture. As we move from the 1970s analog sleepovers into the digital age, this evolving specter basically followed us right through the glass of our screens. Pop culture really cemented these rules for a new generation. You had the 1992 horror film Candyman, directly adapting the ritual. Shows like The X-Files featured it in suburban birthday parties. But the real game changer was YouTube. It transformed a highly private bathroom dare into a huge public collective storytelling event. Teenagers started recording themselves legend tripping, basically hosting virtual summer parties for thousands of viewers at a time. Today, the ritual is still adapting. The exact same fear that fueled the bathroom mirror dare now takes the form of digital chain letters and internet screamers. Remember the Exorcist maze game? These digital frights elicit the exact same suspense, disorientation, and ill-inks play as the original folklore. It's just been updated for a glowing screen instead of a silvered mirror. So, as we wrap up this explainer, it leaves us with a really lingering, provocative thought. The next time you turn off the bathroom light and glance at that dark glass, who are you really afraid of seeing? Was the true monster in the mirror ever a ghostly queen from history? Or is it simply the terrifying, unavoidable reality of your own changing reflection? Definitely something to think about next time you find yourself alone in the dark. Thanks for diving into this with us, and we'll see you on the next one.